So first things first, we want to get started with our biscuits because that also does need to bake. So I like to sift the dry ingredients just to make sure that there's no clumps inside of your flour. If you don't have a sifter, you can always just break it up with your hand before you add any of your wet ingredients. So you're going to put your flour in. Just want to give it a little bit of a toss. And then you can also, at this moment, I'm going to add in my ulu flour as well. And feel free to just use your hands. You're just gonna, and this is just to, like I said earlier, you're just making sure that there's no large clumps, you know, in case there was moisture inside of your house and it caused some of the flour to clump together. So I'm just gonna keep sifting it all out. And at this time, I'm also gonna add in my baking powder, the sugar, and a little bit of the salt. So I'm pretty much just combining all of my dry ingredients together in one process. And that's just to help not only combine them early on in the process, but once again, to make sure that there's no moisture or any clumping inside of your dry ingredients. Because that can affect your final product and it ends up, you know, having weird little pockets of dry flour inside of your biscuit, and you don't want that. And what we're gonna be doing next is we're gonna be adding in our cold butter. And you want to make sure that you use cold butter because butter is mostly water. It does release steam when it bakes, so, and it also offers crispness to the baked product. So you want cold butter so that the moisture gets trapped inside of the finished product while also crisp product. So I had already cut them into small little cubes here, and I had them refrigerated inside of the refrigerator until I'm ready to add them in now. So once you have your sifted ingredients, you're gonna just drop in all of the butter. And some people like to use, you know, biscuit dough cutters when they do this part, but I like to use my hands because you can feel the size. And because my hands are a little bit warm, it will help to soften it just enough that they can start to combine within the flour. And all the butter is in. And so what we're gonna do here is you're just gonna start to coat it inside of the flour. And as it coats, you're gonna start to squeeze it. Just like when we did the pineapple crisp, you wanna start to coat it, but you also wanna start to break the butter down. So you're gonna kind of squeeze them out. And the desired size of the butter inside of the biscuit is gonna be about the size of a pea. And this process does take a little bit long, but don't worry. It is worth it in the end. So we're gonna keep going, and you can see it's starting to kind of crumble. So the butter is breaking apart inside of the dough and it's creating these tiny little pieces, and that's what we're going for. So we're gonna keep breaking it apart. We don't want large butter pieces, we want the smaller ones. And so once those pieces are all broken up, you can just run your hands through and you can feel if there's any larger butter pieces, and then just like split them in half. And then just drop them back in. Okay. So once all the butter has been broken up into those small piece-sized shapes, you can make a small little well in the center. And what we're going to do now is we're going to add in our milk, and make sure, just like the butter, you want the milk to be cold. So we're going to add the milk in. And then we're also going to add in 1 egg. So you can just crack it right into the center. Okay, and then you can break the yolk with your hand if you're using your hand. Okay, and then we're going to go in a circular motion, lightly incorporating the flour into the mix. And your final product is going to be sticky, so don't worry if it does come out sticky, because that is what we're going for. One of the main things when you're doing biscuits is you don't want to over mix. So you want to be very light when you mix it. You don't want to, you know, keep pressing and pressing and pressing. You're just going to lightly toss. Once biscuits become over mixed, they become kind of tough, and you don't get that flaky butter texture that you really want in a really good biscuit. So you can see it starting to come together here. And you can see, like, it's not a solid ball of dough. It's kind of this very sticky looking texture. and that's what we're going for. And then it can be turned onto a table once we're ready. And you want to have a little bit of extra flour on the side. And what we're going to do is we're going to put it a little bit over the table. And this is just to help it make it easier to knead the dough. Okay. And so we're going to put the biscuit on. And like I was saying, the reason that you didn't want to overmix it inside of the bowl process is because this is where you're going to start to knead it. And you're going to start to create that dough. So you're going to start to fold it in. Okay, and as you're going to see the dough start to come together. And it's okay if you see like little pieces like this, because you're going to end up incorporating it all back in anyways. And so whenever you knead, you want to fold it towards you and you press. And this is just to help incorporate all of the pieces in there together. And having that extra flour on the table really helps to create the dough so it's not constantly sticking to your hands. And if you end up having leftover biscuit dough, you can always just refrigerate it and you can totally use it for the next day after. Because for the recipe that we provided, it is a little bit of a lot, as you can see. So if you don't end up using it all in one day, you can totally reserve it and use it for another day. Okay. And so at this point, I'm going to put this back into the bowl. And then I'm going to wash my hands real quick and then we're going to roll it out. We're going to roll the biscuit out to about 1/4 inch thickness. And if you don't have a rolling pin at home, you know, you can totally use like a water bottle or, you know, wine bottle, whatever you have. Something that's, you know, round and it can roll something out flat. So we're going to start to roll it out. One of the key things about when you roll is keeping it even. So every now and then you want to rotate. And then you want to flip it over. So what we're going to do now is I have a sheet pan or a baking tray and I've greased it with a little bit of oil. And so we're going to start to cut them out. You want to do this very quickly so that you're not wasting time with the butter, because if the butter becomes too soft, the rise won't be as significant and you also risk it being under crispy or maybe not as moist. So it's more of like a quality control aspect. Also, the faster you cut them, the faster you eat them. So what we're going to do is we're going to take our biscuits, and so you want to leave them about slightly more than like 1/2 inch apart. Before we put these in the oven, what you can do is you can either egg wash or you can use milk. I like to use milk. It helps it to it keeps the top from burning, and it also gives it a nice color. And you're just brushing the top very, very lightly. You don't have to, you know, drown it. Okay. And once that's done, we're gonna pop these in the oven, and then we're gonna get started with our chicken and our gravy.